Sally YouTube! Today I wanted to do a video based on some of the habits that I've picked up since I've been living in France, because for some reason or another, after 5 years living in France, surrounded by French people, lo and behold, you start to do French people things. The first French people habit that I seem to have picked up has to do with the sounds that French people make and the words that they use as well. So I've definitely picked up the classic So for French people, when they're looking for their words or they're thinking, they tend to say ouais, yes, why not? And I'm definitely like sure. Of course, there's also what I like to call the huff and puff, like the and I do this too. Something's not going well, or the bus is running late or whatever. There's also a few connecting words which French people use all the time that I've definitely picked up. A classic is allez hop. For example, if someone says, hey, can you please pass me the bread? And you pass them the bread and you're just about to put it on their plate, you'll say allez hop, like there you go. Another kind of word that I use all the time is oupla. Like for example, if someone throws you something and you catch it, you're like oupla. Or if you need to jump over something, you're like oupla. Another thing I do now that I never used to do is group numbers by 2. The phone numbers over here are like 06, 67, 57, 18, 09. By the way, that is not my number. But they group the numbers in 2. And in New Zealand, it's not the case. So if you have a cell phone number, you're like 027 266 7003. And now if I'm speaking to friends and they're like, what's your number? I'm like 02 73 09. And yeah, it doesn't really work. Speaking of speaking with native English speakers, another habit that I have picked up from French people is the way I sound when I speak English. So I've actually had a lot of comments on my YouTube channel saying, are you a Kiwi? Are you a French person? Talking about New Zealand a lot? Like, I'm confused. What are you? Yeah, to be honest, I have noticed that my accent has changed a little bit and the way I speak has changed a little bit. For example, we're like, yes, why not? And that's very much like the French say, ouais, pourquoi pas? I also use franglais all the time. The French use après, ensuite, and they translate it to after. So often when they're speaking English, they'll say after, next, after I will, or after, I don't know if, and so I've definitely picked up that habit. I say things like, I propose you that we go to, and I know that it's not correct, but I'm just absorbing my environment. I think it's kind of natural. You start to imitate and pick up the habits that other people have around you. I also start a lot of my sentences in English with in fact. Of course, it's from the French people always saying en fait, la 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 la, en fait, la 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 la, when they're about to explain something to you. Another habit that I've picked up, of course, are the famous French facials. Your face can say so many things without using a single word. You just have to read between the lines. You've got the face which is a little bit like, okay, if you say so, which is a little bit like, it's kind of like, okay, I hadn't heard of that, but I guess I believe what you're saying. Like, the other classic sort of saying, what? Like, surprise what? Like, or kind of like, whatever, what? Like, of course, there's the I don't know. Don't ask me. You gotta do the lips as well. It's like, if you're thinking about something, you gotta do the lips. Like, what? Okay. And if you really don't know the answer to something, you can always do the inflated cheek, which is like... The next thing I'm pretty sure any French learner can relate. But when someone asks now for my name, I give them my surname. Because in France, you're always asked for your surname first, and it's called nom, which looks like name. So, quel est votre nom? When someone's asking for your name in English, you want to say Rosie, but I say McCarthy. So, or McCarthy in French. The H just seems to have randomly disappeared. So now in English, when someone asks for my name, I'm like, McCarthy. And they're like, yeah, but your name, McCarthy. And another thing is that French people always write surnames in capital letters, like caps lock. So it's like Rosie McCarthy, it's like in caps lock, screaming at people. And now whenever I have a form to fill out, like I can't not put them in capital letters. Like my name now will forever exist in capital letters. Another habit I've picked up is telling the time in 24-hour format, because that's the way they do it over here. So, I mean, in New Zealand it would be like 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m. Whereas over here they'll say like 18 heures, 22 heures, and they write it with a little h. So it's like 22h for 10 p.m. And so now even when I'm emailing people in English at work, I'll be like, can we please have a call at 10h30, for 10:30, and yeah, it's all kind of mixed up. Another habit that I just cannot kick is finishing each meal with something sweet. So in France, you usually have very sweet things for dessert. After lunch and after dinner, you always seal the meal with something sweet. So a yogurt, a fruit, a cake, whatever it is, but you seal it off. And now, like, do not talk to me in the afternoon if I haven't had my sweet thing after lunch. Like, I need it and I crave it and I can't really live without it. Another habit which I've picked up, which I explained in much more detail in my video on the ways in which France has fundamentally changed me. I've definitely picked up a little bit of the French mindset, which means that I always have to sort of see things with a critical eye. So I'm like, yeah, it was great, but... or, yeah, it was awesome. The only thing, and I always have to kind of balance it and give a more rounded perspective now. I've noticed in France as well that complaining kind of feels good and it's cathartic, and a lot of people get together and complain, and it's a kind of way to bond, and so I definitely complain more. We can complain about anything, the weather, the temperature, how hungry you are, anything's open. You do pick it up, honestly. I mean, which is fine when you're amongst French people because you don't come across as any different, but as soon as I go back home, people are like, whoa. The last habit I've picked up, I don't really know how I feel about it. I mean, when you go out to restaurants in Paris, you usually eat pizzas and burgers and ribs and these kinds of things that I'm used to eating with my hands. You eat them with a knife and fork, usually. I mean, I'm talking about in general. And I got a lot of hate for saying this in one of my videos before, and they're like, well, you obviously hang out with really rich, really snobby people. And no, when I go out to restaurants, and I'm talking burger joints, I'm talking just standard casual restaurants, I never really see people like picking stuff up with their hands and eating it. And now I feel two things. Either I feel like a complete snob when I'm around friends who are eating with their hands and I've started eating with my knife and fork, and it's sort of like, oh, I'm so precious. And then on the other hand, I mean, I feel ridiculous when I'm in France because I'm like, this is a pizza, or these are nachos, or these are ribs, like, and you really want to pick them up with your hands like a lamb chop or something, but you kind of know that it's not really the done thing. Cool, guys, so I'll leave it here for this video. Have you guys ever lived overseas? Are you expats living in France? Are you French people who have lived abroad? Let me know if you picked up any of the local habits, what they were. I love reading the comments. I love hearing your stories. And don't forget to subscribe so that you can get notified for my videos, which come out every single Wednesday on life abroad, on French culture, on travel, on New Zealand, on lots of random stuff. Until the next video, I'll see you then. À bientôt!